thanks for the question. The question was if we are aware of individuals who are experiencing symptoms for long periods of time and in waves. We are working with our clinical network, and we're looking at the literature to really understand how disease progresses. A lot of this requires, we need to ensure that people who are experiencing symptoms are tested so that we know that these symptoms are associated with COVID-19 or not. You have to remember that in the Northern Hemisphere, we've just finished a flu season, and there are many circulating viruses that can cause flu or flu-like symptoms. And so what we're trying to do is get a clear picture of what disease looks like. When people start to feel unwell, what do those symptoms look like? How many days does it take them to develop a fever if they don't start with a fever? For those who start out a little bit unwell, how many progress to pneumonia that might not need hospital? How many people then progress to even more severe disease? And so what we understand is there's a large number of symptoms that people are exhibiting, including fever, including dry cough, including shortness of breath. You've heard of other symptoms where people have a loss of smell or a loss of taste. And there's more symptoms that are being reported. From the data that we have from countries, we still are seeing about 40% of patients who are exhibiting mild disease and will recover just fine. We have another 40% that are exhibiting more moderate symptoms, which would include pneumonia, but not needing hospitalization or respiratory support. We see a further 15% that are exhibiting severe disease and needing respiratory support and hospitalization, and another 5% that are critical, requiring ICU and ventilatory support. We are trying to get a picture of that's consistent across all countries, and from the data that we've seen, that is a fairly consistent picture. And so that's important. That helps us for planning purposes. It helps us get hospitals ready to know how to care for patients and what types of supplies that they may need.
The people who leave hospital are free of the virus. They're usually testing negative before they depart hospital. But I think what we have to remember is many people who've been hospitalized have experienced severe disease. And while they may be free of the virus and no longer infectious, many are experiencing longer-term issues with energy. They've literally been through the wars, many of them in very difficult circumstances. Some have had impacts on their respiratory system, their cardiovascular system, their liver, their kidney function, and others. So people could remain quite frail, without energy, and struggle to get back to full health. So we have to separate here what is a long struggle to get back to full health from what might be a continued COVID-19 syndrome where you have persistent virus. And the evidence thus far is that there is very little evidence to suggest that there are people who are persistently suffering from COVID-19. Although when you see the data from the hospitals and the length of admission, it is taking many people a very long time to recover in a hospital environment. And we should expect that when people are discharged, that recovery continues, and people don't necessarily just bounce back to full health, although when they are discharged from hospital, it is safe for them to return for themselves and their families.